Hey everyone, welcome again to the BATTASS podcast, the Batman the Animated Series Show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me is...
Sean Murphy, your co-host.
Yeah, and we talked a big game about recording these in person a few episodes ago, and the last few we've done remotely, and it's been a horror show for various reasons.
Yeah.
We're actually, it might not sound it because, we record separately and then put it together, but we're actually doing this over the phone, which is the first time I've ever done that. So hopefully It doesn't sound completely awful.
Yeah. Well, with the microphones we have and all the other stuff, I think we should be good. Plus, you can work your magic.
Yeah, I hope so.
After. But yeah, the last time we kept like cutting into each other, and then there would be like a second delay, and then jokes wouldn't land, and it's pretty painful to listen to that last one.
Yeah, you should see the edit for that one. It looks like someone threw it into a lawnmower. It's absolutely insane.
Well, I appreciate your hard work, man, because I don't have to do that stuff.
Thanks.
I just have to show up and talk and say things.
Yeah, next time we get together, we'll just have to, bang out 4 or 5 of them and feel terrible when we're done.
Right? Yeah.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about 2 episodes. We're going to talk about Terror in the Sky, which is a Man-Bat episode. We finally get a Man-Bat episode after like 3 in a row that were essentially Man-Bat episodes without Man-Bat. And we're going to talk about Almost Got Him. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll jump right into Terror in the Sky. All right, Terror in the Sky, story by Steve Perry and Mark Saraceni, teleplay by Mark Saraceni, directed by Boyd Kirkland. And in this episode, when a giant-sized bat ransacks Gotham Harbor, Batman suspects that Dr. Kirk Langstrom is up to his old tricks, taking the Man-Bat formula again. Batman isn't the only one. Kirk's wife, Francine, is so distrustful of her husband that she decides to leave him. After further investigation, Batman discovers that this Man-Bat is not Kirk, but someone else, and thus he shames Francine's father into permanently destroying the formula. No, that's the entire thing. Note, loosely based on Man-Bat over Vegas, originally presented in Detective Comics number 429 by Frank Robbins. The setting has been shifted to Las Vegas from Las Vegas to Gotham Harbor, and in keeping with the family-friendly rating of the television show, She-Bat is not a vampire in the adaptation. The final line of the episode, "The Nightmare's Finally Over," is similar to one of the final lines from the original comic, "Now Fran's vampire nightmare is about over."
Yeah.
So, we've finally made it to Man-Bat, as I said, after 2 or 3 in a row that were just aching to have Man-Bat, and for whatever reason they decided on cat people and werewolves.
We need to have a series of episodes about animals, everybody. We need to do this. Like 4 in a row. Everyone, you're okay with that, right?
Yeah. It's so strange. Like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, he was even in, what's his name? Langstrom was even in one of them. And for a second, I was thinking, I thought maybe they were actually doing something a little sneakier that we just weren't picking up, and that this was going to somehow be like like a backdoor trilogy or something, where it was going to turn out that someone like that weird guy with the bowl cut was involved again or something that was going to tie them all together. But no, it was just a Man-Bat episode.
Yeah. Did you like this one as much as the first Man-Bat episode?
I actually liked it a lot, but not for probably the same reasons.
Right.
I thought, especially the last few, I thought the animation has been really shoddy in certain places. I thought this episode, the animation was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a total show-off episode where it was like the story was really loose. It was like a 3-beat story that you could write on note cards, essentially.
Right.
And they just spent the entire time just kicking ass on animation and action sequences, and I thought that stuff was fantastic.
Yeah, they had a ton of like motorcycle chases, airplane stuff. Really interesting. I love the Batwing, of course. Anytime he gets to fly in that, I actually think his Batwing looks better than the Tim Burton design.
Yeah, it does. It's a lot sleeker. It's a lot sharper.
Yeah. Having drawn both, like I really like the Tim Burton one, but it's sort of more circular and rounded, and it looks like a
definitely.
tiny sports car of the sky, which, I'm all about sports cars. But there's something about the animated series one where I think that it looks good from almost every angle.
Yeah, that Tim Burton one's weird because it's like I feel like they're working really hard to make it emulate the bat symbol on the chest, which obviously they do when he flies up into the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of it feels similar to a lot of the other design in that movie where it is rounded, it's very blunt.
Yeah.
And it's this one is just like a slick rocket ship. It looks really, really cool.
I actually bought a unopened diecast model of this from the 90s. I paid like $20 for it, and of course it's the kind of thing you're supposed to never open, but I needed to take photos of it, and the way it shines and catches light, it's kind of important to when I have to draw the thing, because I had a scene where Batman gets attacked by the Batwing. But yeah, I love drawing it. I wish I had more excuses to put it in my book, but I tend to go for a low-tech Batman, so I don't usually think about anything beyond a Batmobile, really.
Right.
I was going to ask you, when you mentioned that scene in 89 where Batman's flying around, and in order to get enough speed, he has to swoop up against the moon. For a split second, it's the bat signal. Did you realize that his plane was the shape of the bat signal before he did that?
Honestly, I can't remember because I've seen that movie so many times, and I've watched it since I was so young. I honestly can't remember if I recognized. I think I just assumed that it was.
Yeah.
Because it's fairly batty looking even before he does that.
Right.
But,
yeah.
I may have even had the toy of it before I saw the movie. I'm not even sure.
Yeah. I did not know that it was the shape. So when I saw it, I didn't see this in the theater. I think I must have rented it on a tape or something eventually. When he flew up against the moon, my mind was blown. Like my little 10-year-old mind just blew out my asshole. I could not believe how fucking awesome that was.
Well, you know what's funny about that scene is I love that. I always have loved it. But if they did that in a movie today, I would roll my eyes so hard. Like that is a total like eye rolling wink at the camera moment.
Yeah.
And I just love it. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because it's been ingrained in me for so long. I don't know, but it's great.
Yeah, I think it's okay to do that stuff. I think even if it's hokey and corny, I think if it's sufficiently awesome and it's a good wink to the real fans, I think you can always win with that kind of a scene. Yeah,
just like how in Batman and Robin he pulls out a Batman branded credit card, right? Same thing,
no,
right?
Different thing, Clay. That just raises questions. Like, does he sign up to a credit card company as Batman? Do they know that he's really Bruce Wayne? I mean, do they give him his own? Like, it's just this. Yeah, that just,
it's really a bad move on his part because that leaves a paper trail, and you can probably, he's probably had to have Robin or at least Alfred co-sign on the opening of that line of credit or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Joel Schumacher ever watched, ever really read a comic.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was going to defend him for a second, but then I said it's not worth it because it's like those movies are very comic booky, but not in like the way that we would think of a comic book. It's the way that like the rest of the world thinks of a comic book. People who aren't comic people. Yeah,
that's the giveaway. When he said I wanted to make a movie that looked like a comic book, I thought, yo, you haven't read a comic. You've just watched Adam West, and you wanted to make a 90s version of Adam West. Like, because this isn't what comics look like,
Yeah, like that first Hulk movie where they cut everything up into panels
across
the screen.
Because it looks like a comic, Clay. That's called storytelling.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that movie is generally pretty bad, but the Hulk stuff in that movie is fantastic. When he's out in the desert smashing up shit, I love that stuff.
Yeah. Is this with the two poodles?
Yes.
Did it turn into monsters? Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, I saw that one.
Yeah, I did too. I loved it when I saw it the first time, and then I saw it again, and I was like, oh, no, I loved about 15 minutes of this, and then the rest of it was,
But one more tangent, and then we'll get back to Batman. But I was living in L.A. when they built a statue of the Hulk in one of the movie studios, whatever. And they built a statue thinking that the Hulk would be a big hit, and of course it wasn't. So after it sucked, I thought, good. Are they going to just remove the statue now? Because it looked just like the the actor from the original.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so then they decided to do another Hulk, and it was just redoing it. And I think that was the first movie I saw. It was sort of a trend of like, don't fix it, just redo it. Just ignore the fact that we fucked up the first one, and let's just make another one and just sort of change some things, and hopefully that'll work. And I find that so completely offensive that you wouldn't just make it work the first time. You have to go back and like fix it, and it's just, I don't know, man. I guess it ended up working because eventually they did save the Hulk after 3 tries.
Yeah, I think it gets weird as far as like rights and stuff go, because it's like, it's like imagine taking White Knight and then they're saying, "Oh, we're going to make a movie out of this," and then they go, "Thanks, we're just going to take this and we'll give you some tickets when it's done." And then when you go see the movie, they completely changed everything because the people who were involved in it didn't care about the product or whatever. And I don't want to generalize, but that stuff happens, and so it doesn't surprise me that it took getting Hulk back into the Marvel fold and done by people who are Marvel people to get it to work right.
Right.
It's like watching somebody. It's kind of like watching somebody play a video game that you've already played, and they keep making a terrible, stupid decision. Like they keep going in the wrong door, and you're like, no, you got to go. Just let me do it, and then you finally get the controller and you do it, and you feel good about it.
So the first Hulk movies, was it Fox? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Fox or Universal. I can't remember which one.
Before Fox was owned by Disney.
Yes.
Yeah, if you could go back in time and tell them what was about to happen with who was going to absorb who, and how Marvel characters are all going to come together. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it, honestly. It's just crazy.
Oh no, I still think it's I still talk to my girlfriend's younger cousins and my younger cousins who are huge into Marvel stuff, and I go, you don't understand. When I was your age, if I said something about like, oh man, I can't wait to talk about Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet with you. Yeah. First of all, everyone would just stare at me because they didn't know what I was talking about, and then secondly, they would never talk to me again.
Right.
Because it's like the Infinity Gauntlet was like a deep cut even when it was popular. Mm-hmm. So the fact that there is the biggest movie in history features Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet and like Iron Man and Ant-Man just continually blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. You were all excited for the movie Sudden Death because Jean-Claude Van Damme had a Spider-Man-like move, and you were like, that's just like Spider-Man.
Yep.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back before comic book movies came out, if anything was even like tangentially referential to comics, I was all about it. And, like Mallrats. Mallrats blew my mind because people were actually talking about comics the way I talked about comics.
Right.
And so that was my favorite movie for like 10 years.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen that. I think maybe I have seen it.
I would say don't watch it now. I don't think it doesn't hold up very well, unfortunately.
Right. Well, hey, comics made it into pulp culture, so that's good.
Yeah. Now, if actual comic books would make it into pop culture and people would buy them, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. All these movies coming out, I don't know if we talked about this, but a lot of the Hollywood sales have not translated into comic shops. You don't see people getting out of these movies, heading straight to a comic shop and buying a bunch of stuff. I mean, you think it would have helped us, but in a lot of ways, it hasn't. It's sort of stayed the same,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an insider, so I don't know how these things work. But as someone who buys comics, I think it's just hard. I don't think there's advertising for it. For one thing, that's the thing that blows my mind. You've got these multi-million, billion-dollar movies based on these IP, and you can't take like 30 seconds before the movie to put a commercial out there about like, hey, you like the Avengers? Well, here's what's happening in Avengers comics or something.
Right.
Or I mean, DC has content on TV almost 7 days a week now. You can't throw one commercial in there talking about, you like Green Arrow? Green Arrow is a comic book you can go buy.
Yeah, I mean, say a commercial is $100,000. and let's say you send some of the people there into a comic book shop. Are they necessarily buying Green Arrow comics? Are they necessarily buying DC comics? If they're buying Marvel comics, then that backfired.
True.
Yeah, I mean, $100,000 for a commercial is a lot of money, and I don't know if you're going to see that return. Like it seems to me they're happy just to let comics be the cheap R&D department. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it feels like anyway. You know.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like I've seen when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I was with two separate people who went into a comic book store and asked for the first trade that featured that version of Guardians of the Galaxy, the first volume,
right?
And it was out of print,
right?
Which is insane.
Yeah,
it's like you have this movie coming out that's hitting massively, and you're hoping people are going to come to the stores and buy the books, and the book is out of print.
Right.
I think I think you're right. I think what it is they don't really care. Unfortunately, it's just it's R&D, it's IP farming. And it's comics, unfortunately, is a fairly insular, small niche thing, even though the stuff it creates makes billions of dollars.
So I have one question about this episode.
Yes.
It's about standards and practices. When you see her as a monster and they show the monster's nipples, is that okay?
Were there nipples in this cartoon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There were?
Yeah, there were. Now, the first scene, the Man-Bat is not wearing any shirt at all. You can just see nipples.
Right.
The second time you see it, the Man-Bat is wearing woman's pink pants. So it's obviously Langstrom's wife. And then the third time she monsters out, she's still wearing like a torn, draped white shirt that never quite fell off. Yeah. And even when she's wearing that, they still show her nipples. Again, as she's a Man-Bat, not a woman.
Are you sure? I
100%.
don't remember. I don't remember. I do not remember monster nipples.
There are nipples there. Yeah, I'm watching it right now. She's in the plane. She's walking down the middle of the aisle right now. Her husband's freaking out. You can see her nipples. I'm looking at them right now.
And you're really looking.
I'm really looking. I mean, you can't really be a furry because these monsters aren't real.
That's true. Yes.
Clay.
Well, I mean, technically, it's just a giant bat, so that would fall under the purview of being okay.
Right. So I get that you leave the shirt on her if you're going to hide her nipples. Mm-hmm. Or if she's going to revert back to being a woman, you obviously need her to be wearing a shirt. I get that.
Right.
But as far as I would love to be in the meeting where they had to talk about this.
Yeah, I guarantee you they had this conversation 100%. And it's probably not the first time they've done something like that, too.
Yeah.
I guarantee you if you think that this is weird, imagine the conversation they probably had about Catwoman and being a nude cat person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, it's just another tick mark on the list of fantastic animation is the Man-Bat nipples or the she-Bat nipples.
So if his wife turned into a kind of a Man-Bat, but she had boobs and she looked way more human, I feel like that would have gotten flagged. But the more you push her over into monster. So I'm curious where the line is, where it's like, you can leave them in, I guess.
If they decided that she had 6 nipples because she was an animal, would that be okay?
Right. Or if she was a cow, she would have udders, and udders are nipples, right?
Yeah, man cow.
I know.
Anyway.
Batman just tips him over when he's asleep. End of episode.
Yeah. Easiest way to defeat him because he can't get back up.
Oh, man.
What was I going to say before we started talking about this garbage? Did you notice how big of an asshole Batman is in this episode?
I thought Langstrom was more of an asshole than Batman. How do you
Batman just kept coming off like a dickhead because every time that he didn't believe Langstrom for a second.
Right.
Like he didn't give him the benefit of the doubt, and then after he found out that it wasn't Langstrom, that it was somebody else, he says to him, "I found out that it's not you, so this gets us both off the hook." So it's like he was worried about his chemistry skills being taken to task.
I mean, Langstrom is such a dick anyway. I don't imagine. I mean, Bruce wants to help him, but he's not happy about it because the guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
And when Langstrom says, "You've helped enough," like, no shit, he did help a lot. Like, it's because of his chemistry set that he was able to cure you, asshole.
That's true. Yeah, he did turn you back into a human from being a gigantic.
You've helped enough, Batman.
Yeah. I guess Batman has some room to be a dick, I guess.
However, I think Alfred was a pretty big dick in this episode.
Yeah, well, that's par for the course with him.
When Bruce is like, can you believe there's someone talking about some big giant bat shaped like a man? Do you know anything about this, Alfred? And Alfred's like, present company excluded.
I love that Alfred basically acts like, if you have a friend and then they're telling you about a knucklehead friend of theirs who is constantly doing stupid shit, and then they're telling you like the most recent thing, and you're just like, yep, that sounds right. Doesn't surprise me. You just like take it in very sarcastically and just kind of quip about it.
Right.
That's what Alfred is in this situation.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Completely unsurprised.
Did you realize that it was his wife turning into the Man-Bat, or when did you figure that out?
I think probably around halfway. Like, I knew it wasn't him. I thought for a second it was the dad.
Yeah.
But then I was like, nah, that's too obvious. Yeah. What's actually nice about this story is, like I said, it's not super. There's not a lot to it, but they actually kind of give you enough that there is a bit of mystery to it that's not instantly apparent.
Right.
Like having those 3 characters instead of 2 characters, I think just gives you a little bit more wiggle room.
Right. Yeah, they have the misdirect with the father character.
Yeah. I think the way she turns it, she gets drugged or whatever, it's fine, I guess.
Right. You mean the way her dad spilled the glass and she had to
and she cuts her hand on the broken glass. Yeah.
You see, that's fine, I guess. What bugged me is that was the point when everything comes into focus. And the only reason Batman figures it out is he doesn't figure it out at all.
Yeah, the guy tells him,
The guy has to think back, and he remembers that his daughter cut herself while cleaning these dangerous chemicals. Yeah, shit, dude, you're a fucking scientist. You didn't know that? I feel like they could have had Batman figure it out or had some other solution to that, because I just thought that was kind of weak.
Yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about the scene from The Naked Gun where they lay out all this information, and then Leslie Nielsen's like, "Of course, I realize that now." Because I mean, that he goes to rough up the father, and is completely unaware that it could be the daughter, and so
right.
and even the guy, he's not even trying to tell Batman the truth.
Right.
Like, it occurs to him as it's happening. He's like, no, I was working on this oh my God, my daughter.
After he pulled a gun on Batman and he starts to think back to what happened and, oh my God, it was me.
Yeah. It's like he just remembered where he put his keys, basically.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the story is great shakes or anything, but I think this is a case actually where the animation really does a lot of heavy lifting and is just so good. I mean, even the snow was awesome. Like that awesome, the snowmobile bike that he had, which was just the regular motorcycle, but with spikes on the tires.
Yeah, spikes. I love it.
Yeah, like that stuff was great. I mean, the animation, even like little incidental stuff, like when Batman first gets into a fight with the she-bat, there's this bit where she knocks over the motorcycle, and even that animation looked great. Like they actually did whatever the 360 movement of a tipping over motorcycle would look like. It looked fantastic.
Yeah, when he's being dragged on the train tracks, you get the swivel of it, and there's another shot in the Batwing where they animate all the tech as it turns and heads right towards the camera and zooms in, and that shit's not easy to do,
Yeah, and even there was little bits here and there, when Batman first shows up at Langstrom's place, when he comes in from outside, he's got snow on his shoulders that he shakes off of him, which is a tiny detail they didn't have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, the weather in this episode is really fantastic. Like you said, the snow on all the buildings is great. There's a scene where the plane's taking off and it's starting to rain and sleet.
Yeah, that was cool.
And even the wheel in the ground is like kicking off snow, and there's no reason for them to really do that. It's not like a Mr. Freeze story or anything, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just winter in Gotham. You know, usually in shows like this, if there's snow, it's either part of the story or it's like a Christmas episode or something. Or, yeah, they just felt like making it snowy out.
Do you like to draw snow?
Yeah, because it's just white.
Yeah, I do too, but it's harder than it seems because you have to plan for it. Like, where do you stop the black? Where do you're drawing a fence and you're going to have snow on top of the fence. So where do you stop the black from going to the tip top of the fence? Do you draw an outline of the snow on top of the fence, or do you render the bushes behind the fence so it gives the impression of an outline in the foreground? Like little questions like that. Or even the way Zaffino drew snow is he almost inked it like light rocks or frozen smoke in a way. So his snow had rendering to it. So I mean, you can really turn up the contrast a lot, or you can sort of render more like Zaffino did. Like snow is one of those things where it's like its own texture in a way, and everyone has their own solution to it.
Yeah, it's I find the way people handle falling snow really interesting too.
Yeah.
Because I like to play with the depth of snow a lot when it's like falling, so you get like some big chunks in the foreground that takes up a lot of space, and smaller ones in the background, which gives you a lot of nice depth to it. But yeah, and sometimes they can. What I actually tend to do sometimes is I'll hit it. My stuff tends to be much heavier inked, obviously, as you know, and. So I'll hit it with some white paint and just like off of a brush or off a toothbrush or something. And then I'll kind of go in and I'll create the snowflakes or the chunks of snow afterwards, like on top of the blobs that come off.
Right. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that way, if you want to play with that, I like having some of it look like it's not fully rendered off of whatever it's touching. So, so you're not carving it out with a line or anything. It's just the white breaking the barrier on the other white kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it.
Yeah. It's funny. Snow is one of the things where I'm tempted to let the colorist handle it. And I've never done that because I pride myself on not needing the colorist's tricks to do things that I could easily do. Like I love inking rain. I have good rain effects that I've sort of gathered, with speed lines and splatter. Like I can ink the fuck out of rain. But snow, it's like, I don't know. Do I grab the tiny micron, the thick one, and I'm just drawing circle, blobby circle, circle, smaller. It's like, it's just so tedious. It's like drawing broken glass. Another thing I hate. It's just like, all right, buckle in. You have 20 minutes of fucking trapezoids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that.
I like drawing debris sometimes. I think depending on the debris, it can really kind of bring your image alive a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the trick that I use a lot if I have room for it is like blowing paper. Because you can if you just throw in some like sheets of paper or something that look like it's kind of flowing in the wind, it just implies action,
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
And I'm the same way with broken glass. Like if I'm gonna break a glass, I'm gonna shatter the fuck out of that glass.
Right.
But yes, it is a pain in the ass to do it. Yes.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Like I have 10 minutes of patience to do this, and then I'm gonna shoot myself. So
who's amazing at shattered glass is John Romita Jr.
Oh yeah.
He's really good at it. I'll have to find some examples and send it to you because he has like this sort of like mid-range thing where he does a lot of spider webbing on the glass,
right?
And it looks a lot simpler once you really start looking at it. So it probably didn't take too long. But then he also does a lot of like pieces flying off and stuff that looks really great. He's very good at it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Okay. Oh yeah, it does look good. Tedious though. Again, a bunch of fucking trapezoids.
Yeah. Well, speaking of drawing stuff, what would you draw in this episode?
I thought the easy answer is the motorcycle with the spikes in it. But there's a shot at the end when Batman and Man-Bat are on top of like Brooklyn Bridge or something, and Man-Bat, when you see Man-Bat's POV, it's like a green acidic sort of palette, which is really cool looking. It's almost like Batman against fire, but green instead of orange. And there's a shot where Batman
worse.
Yeah. So there's a shot where Batman appears and he's like standing on top of the wing, hovering over it, almost like Doc Brown in the DeLorean in Back to the Future 2. You know what I mean? I love that shot. It's super brief, but I would totally draw that.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would draw a snow fight, I think.
Snow fight.
Yeah. Well, Batman fighting in the snow. I mean, because I think that gives you a lot of latitude to do some cool stuff, like we were talking about as far as how the snow interacts with things, and
Yeah.
I think that would be a lot of fun to play around with.
Oh, I thought you were teasing. Like, wasn't there an artist a while back who, I'm going to get the story wrong. I'm going to make up names. I think it was Sam Keith, actually, who someone wanted him to do a story for Marvel. I think maybe it was Wolverine. And I believe he said, fine, but it takes place in a blizzard in Antarctica because I don't want to fucking draw any backgrounds. And I believe that it came out. So I'm happy to be corrected on this, by the way, if we actually know who it was and what the book was. But I remember seeing pages where a lot of the pages were blank because you had people wandering around in snowstorms or whatever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm talking like in the episode, like snowy Gotham City Batman fight.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were being cheeky.
No, if that was the case, I would have said Batman in a fight with a polar bear wearing his Arctic Commando gear, which is just white.
So Moon Knight.
Yes, yeah, Moon Knight, essentially, yeah. Yeah, Bill Sienkiewicz, another guy who can ink the hell out of some broken glass.
Oh God, yeah. Tim Sale does a good job too. He kind of does what Frank Miller does, where he just takes a crow quill and inks different jagged, trapezoid shapes, kind of overlapping. He doesn't try to tint each one of them. They're sort of flat until they're colored, but it still kind of works,
right. Yeah. What would you rate this one?
I'm going to go 5 out of 10. What is our rating system?
1 to 5.
Okay, 1 to 5. Sorry. Who's this? What's a Batman? I'm going to go 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go 4 on this one, I think.
Oh, nice.
Based entirely on the animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's really great. I think it's they, for whatever reason, they usually pull out the big guns on like really important episodes, and this is not one of them. Yeah. But they decided to just kick ass for some reason.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of big episodes, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Almost Got 'Em. All right, we're back, and now we're going to talk about Almost Got 'Em, written by Paul Dini, directed by Eric Radomski. And in this one, the Joker, Killer Croc, the Penguin, Two-Face, and Poison Ivy all meet at a poker table, each telling a tale of times when they almost defeated Batman. At the same time, Harley Quinn is about to kill Catwoman after she rescued Batman from the Joker's electric chair, and Batman must save her. Notes: influenced by a 4-issue story arc in Batman 291 to 294 from 1977 called Where Were You on the Night Batman Was Killed? In each of the 4 issues, one of Catwoman, Riddler, and the Joker all recount their claims to have killed the Batman. However, the plot for Almost Got 'Em is quite different, 6 stories in the show and 4 completely different ones in the comic book, with only the Joker as an overlapping antagonist. Two-Face's strategy in Almost Got 'Em, strapping down Batman to a giant coin and flipping the coin into the air, was taken from the comic, World's Finest Comics number 30 from September 1947. In a backup tale, both Batman and Robin were tied to a giant penny that was catapulted into spikes by a lesser-known villain called the Penny Plunderer. I wonder why that guy didn't stick around.
The Penny Plunderer, like he trades penny stocks like Wolf of Wall Street?
Let's see. The Penny Plunderer, he first appeared in World's Finest Comics number 30. Uncredited story by Bill Finger. Art was credited to Bob Kane. Joe Coyne began his career selling newspapers, but he was soon caught stealing pennies. He now commits crimes which center on pennies. In The Penny Plunderers, he leaves Batman and Robin in a death trap shaped like a giant penny with a penny each as a token of their worth, just 2 cents.
Wow.
Batman turns the tables by using the coins to make a battery and signal for... that's very inventive.
Whoa.
The giant penny often shows up in the Batcave as a trophy of Batman's defeat, the Penny Plunderer.
It's so crazy that coin is in everything Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the origin of it is real dumb.
Like the penny piddler or whatever. Penny peddler.
Yeah. Yep.
Oof.
Yeah. So, what do you think of Almost Got Him?
Yeah, this is a top 10 for me. I'm definitely giving this a 5 out of 5.
So,
I love the framing device. The animation's amazing. The voice acting. I mean, there really isn't much wrong with this one.
So, let me ask you this. Do you like it more because of the framing device, or do you think that it is actually like a really good episode? Because the reason I say that is because I think there's too many stories, and I don't think most of them are very good. I think the Penguin is really good, and I think the Joker is pretty good, but the Poison Ivy story is terrible. It's just not terrible. It's just it's too quick. They're too fast. They're not. They're not really. There's not much there. You know.
This episode with her. I mean, this mini episode. She's come closer to capturing Batman before. We've seen her get closer than this.
Yeah.
I agree.
She chose the time that she had a bunch of exploding poison pumpkins over the time that she turned his butler into a living tree.
Yeah.
And it's a weird choice for her.
You know what? She should have finished the story, and they're like, "Didn't you turn his butler into a tree once?" I feel like that was way closer to getting it.
Yeah. So, because when I got done with this one, I was like, "Yeah, that was really good," but I feel like I liked the concept and the execution of the concept more than like the stories they're telling.
Yeah. So the idea is a cool, gimmicky idea. It's a quick elevator pitch. You could see why it's like, "Oh, that sounds awesome," because it's just so different. And you do get to see all the villains working together, and you get to see how they relate to each other. You know, like Poison Ivy used to date Two-Face.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of benefits you get out of putting all the villains together in a poker game and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I definitely think that's where the money in this episode is no pun intended. Poor Penny Plunderer.
Right. Tell me he at least looked like Abraham Lincoln, the Penny Plunderer.
I don't think they have a picture. No, I don't have a picture of him. Wait, hold on.
I mean, if he's all about pennies, he's got to look like Abraham Lincoln.
No, he apparently looks like a dude.
Does he ride around in a giant unicycle with a penny for?
No. Based on this one picture I can see from the cover or the first page of the issue he was in, he's just a guy. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Bill Finger, for nothing.
But you do have the opportunity to take this character, and I mean, White Knight 3. No one would see that coming.
It was the Penny Plunderer all along. Him and the Condiment King. I do like Clayface's story of how he almost got him. I think that
Clayface is not in this episode.
Sorry, Two-Face.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think the Two-Face's flashback or vignette is pretty successful.
I like that one because it is completely insane and it is completely psychosis based. He's like, I'm going to tie you to this thing and I'm just going to flip this giant coin. You're either going to live or all of your bones are going to shatter.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and then he's undone by his own coin as he always is, which is nice. And although when the coin, after Batman and Robin get off the coin and it does get flipped, it does land on two of his henchmen. Mm-hmm. So those guys are probably dead.
They're temporarily squished like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, Clay. They're fine. But if this was an adult show, then they'd be dead.
Interestingly, I'm looking at some of the trivia here. Paul Dini had originally written that instead of using exploding pumpkins, Poison Ivy instead set Christmas trees on fire in protest to them being chopped for the holidays.
That's
According
brilliant.
to Dini on the commentary broadcast standards and practices, there you go, had him change it, and he opted instead for Halloween pumpkins.
Right.
Bruce Timm thought the pumpkin idea worked out much better.
Well, having her like breed a kind of Christmas tree, and then everyone in Gotham buys these trees, and these trees can like explode on command or something. So she basically puts a stick of dynamite in every living room in Gotham. That's pretty awesome.
That would be a pretty good Poison Ivy story, actually.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that's what you were saying.
Oh no, that's
what I thought. That's what he wanted to do.
No, it says Poison Ivy set Christmas trees on fire. To protest them being chopped for the holiday.
See, I guess as I was hearing it, I was making it much better. Yeah. I'm awesome. I had a Paul Dini story once we're done, by the way, before I forget.
Sure. But yeah, I think I think the flow of this one is really good. Aside from Poison Ivy's story being kind of short,
right?
I like that they do 2 in a row, and then they do the Killer Croc bit where he's like, I threw a rock at him. It was a big rock.
Love it.
Yeah.
I had a call back to that in White Knight. I just thought it was
nice.
Amazing. So I forgot that Killer Croc. When you first meet him, he is more methodical and maniacal and less of a dipshit. And this episode, because the one quote everyone remembers from this series about Killer Croc is, "I threw a rock at him."
Yep.
So you think of him as a moron, and he really isn't. But then you realize that he's not actually in this episode. Batman is. And Batman is doing an impression of Killer Croc, which shows Batman has absolutely zero respect for Killer Croc.
That's a good point. Yeah.
This how Killer Croc sounds? I do rock at him. But the clever thing
is, how long do you think Batman like stood in the mirror in full costume and tried to work out that impression?
I thought as a kid, did he take him out when Killer Croc went to the bathroom, or has he been Killer Croc this whole time?
Yeah.
And I guess he's been Killer Croc this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was a big setup, so...
Yeah. I bet Batman's kind of a method actor. I bet he goes all Daniel Day-Lewis on this shit.
Yeah. I would say probably yes. Either that he was just so pissed off that he had to do it. He's like, I have to play Croc. I could have played anyone, and I had to play Croc.
Yeah, I know.
I'm too big to play the Riddler.
I want to see the version of this where he plays Poison Ivy. Hey guys, does anybody want a salad?
Hi Harvey, we used to date.
Yeah. The Penguins vignette I really love in this.
Yeah,
I thought
it's great.
It's not an ostrich, I forget what this thing's called, but they had a nice like Velociraptor style rendering of this thing, and I think it's the best penguin you ever see in this series.
Yeah.
It's just in this vignette,
Yeah, I thought that one had the most tension to it, 100%. Like the Poison Ivy one didn't really have much to it. The Two-Face one is kind of fun, but it's kind of silly.
Yeah.
The Joker one is just way over the top. But the Penguin one the Penguin one was really, really good, I thought.
Yeah. I was going to say, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I do agree with you that I think this episode gets a lot of points because it's a neat idea and it stands out from all the other episodes. And, calling it Almost Got 'Em is perfect. But when you get down to it, it's not as strong as Heart of Ice is, or some of the other stories that we like. Yeah.
I think it's... Yeah, conceptually, I think it's really great. You get to see the villains in a way that you've never seen them before. Like we've seen them a couple episodes ago, all kind of bumming around at Arkham Asylum, but actually seeing them kind of hang out and interact. I kept thinking of the Hugo Strange episode where Penguin, Two-Face, and Joker all show up to buy the tape,
right?
And how that was kind of fun. And it would be fun to see more of that. And it's like, it feels like that's where this might have come from. Is they're like, oh, we should get these guys together.
Yeah. When I watched this, I realized that I might have stolen an idea from this accidentally.
Again?
Again.
Put it on the list, man. Jesus.
When we start this off, everyone's playing cards, and you only see their hands, their cards, and if they're drinking something or if they have anything near them. So you can kind of define each villain by what he or she is doing with his hands.
Yeah.
And it's something that I did when I have Jack Napier go to meet all the villains. They're all drinking.
Oh, that's right.
And instead of like I gave each person a booze that fit their personality. So for a Scarecrow, I gave him pumpkin brew. For Penguin, I gave him like ice pick vodka. For Two-Face, I gave him in one hand like a 40, in the other hand he's got a glass of Chardonnay. You know, Baby Doll has a sippy cup. Killer Croc is drinking from like moonshine, and I thought I was really proud of it. I thought I was really, really clever for all of them, except I got to for the Riddler, and I'm like, what the fuck does he drink? Like puzzle bourbon? I have no idea. So I gave him just a flask with a puzzle piece on it, and that's all I could think of.
Nice. All right.
Like every other one I'm really proud of. Go ahead.
I got a question for you, though. How does Mr. Freeze drink that?
Oh, yeah, Freeze isn't in that scene.
Oh, he wasn't? Oh, okay.
No. Penguin
that's
had
right.
the ice pick vodka.
I guess he wouldn't have been, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Freeze would be crunching.
Right.
We'd be crunching on ice or licking the inside of his like head container.
That is a really fun way to do an intro. And I mean, it's great. They've got the Joker cheating at cards, which is fun.
Yeah.
And I forget what Two-Face does, but he's like got a pair of twos or something like that. Yeah, they did a nice job. And you know, that whole room that they're in is really fun too. Like, it's very minimal. It's very, you know, high contrast. And I love the background work that they do at one point where is it after Ivy shows up? Yeah, Croc needs to get a chair. So while everybody's talking, he's in the background, like tossing somebody across the room and stealing their chair. Yeah,
that's when I thought maybe that's when Batman took over his body or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's overall. Yeah, I think it's great for what it is. I wish the stories had a little bit more punch to them, but it is another one where I feel like there's other stuff that is elevating it aside from just the story, you know?
Yeah.
And I love how at the end they bring it all back with Catwoman too, where she, you know, tries to make out with him and then she flies away and she says, "Almost got him." Great ending.
Yeah, that hook is really great, that last line. But she's she's a damsel in distress again. Like, I just feel like Poison Ivy is more, you know, strong, powered woman than Catwoman is.
That's a tough one though, because I mean, technically Batman's just saving her after she saved him. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I don't know if they cancel each other out there or what, but as far as the point system for that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's kind of underutilized. Not that she has a lot to do. Harley's in there too. I think Harley's pretty fun in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole black and white sequence of him and the laugh-o-meter is pretty great.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for the black and white televisions they have.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if I had to draw something, it would be Batman strapped into the laugh-o-meter. I think that'd be pretty good. Yeah,
that would be pretty awesome. Actually, I'm so lazy. The thing I was thinking,
no.
Well, the thing that I would love to draw is that poker scene, because you've got the hard lighting and on the people playing poker and all of the shadows and stuff in the background. I think would be a lot of fun. Right. I love the way they do the thing where, even though it doesn't make any sense, where the light shines on Croc and then it comes away and you see Batman.
Totally.
And then it comes back and it's Croc.
That's great. Yeah, that's brilliant. A lot of creative license
doesn't
there,
make a lick of sense, but it looks great.
Yeah, that's the best. That's one of the highlights for me anyway. You're right. Catwoman does show up to save him first. I forgot about that. Sorry, I'm just kind of watching it while we're talking.
Sure.
Yeah, have I complained about poker tables before?
I feel like you have, yes.
Okay. Least favorite thing to draw. I hate drawing them. And I don't know what episode I went on a rant, but I don't draw poker tables anymore, poker games. I don't want to draw chips, cards, money. It's just all the shit that goes onto a poker table is not fun. You drawing an octagon in perspective. From now on, if I ever get that in a script, I just change it to pool table.
Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah. See, the shape is the hardest part. If it were me, I 100%, I would just draw an ellipse. I wouldn't even try to do like an octagon or whatever it is.
Or go all Mignola and draw it edge on, and then just draw money stacked up, so you don't have to draw any like faces of any presidents.
Exactly. That's what you do. Is you draw it high shadow.
Yeah.
Or heavy shadow. So you've got like all you're seeing is maybe like mid chest up is lit. Yeah. And then their hands is all black behind them, and you see like the white of the chips or whatever, but the surface that it's on you do not see.
Right. Yeah.
Genius.
Brilliant, man. Good job. So is that what you would draw, the poker scene?
Yeah, I think I would, and I think the reveal of Batman would be pretty fun to do, and all that. I think there's a lot of fun stuff to do in there. I think, yeah.
So they came out. Sorry, they came out with a card game of this last year called.
I was going to mention that. I didn't know if you had seen that.
So I bought it and we tried to play it. It was terrible, and
that's a bummer.
Instead of throwing it against the wall, I decided to sketch inside of it, and we eBayed it an hour later, and I sold it for like $200. Someone owns it. It's a terrible game, but at least mine's slightly more valuable, I guess. And trying to draw inside a box, like holding the pen, kind of choking up on it, like having it. It's not easy to do. I wish I took a picture of it, but yeah, it's a terrible game.
That's a pretty solid fuck you to that company, though.
I mean, there's another one right now. I think IDW put together a Batman game, and it's it's a mini Gotham City, and you're going around doing stuff. I haven't played that one either. But just the graphics on it annoy me. The cover of it annoys me. Like, the Bruce Timm style isn't that hard to draw. You can't get someone to do a better job to mimic that. I'm sure the gameplay is ass as well. But yeah.
Well, I guess we won't be getting a free one now.
Like, if you get it and it sucks, I'll just draw on it and we'll just trade the money for beer.
So you're going 5 on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can't say 4 on this, and you're basically admitting this is as good as the last episode.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
You need to go. You need to go week 5.
Yeah, I'll go 5. I think it is 5 worthy, just barely.
I think you like to be a smartass, and people are all like, "Hey, what's your favorite episode?" You can't wait for someone to say, "Oh my god!" and you get to slowly drink your drink and put it in the middle of the table and be like, "Actually, guys, maybe it's just a gimmick."
It's funny you should say that, because no, not necessarily. However, I do have a stance that I stand up for anytime I get a chance to, which is that the Star Trek episode City on the Edge of Forever, where they go back in time and they if the girl dies, then if she doesn't die, then World War II never happens, or I don't know, whatever.
Right.
And that's always cited as the greatest Star Trek episode of all time. I very much do not agree with that. Right. So anytime it comes up, I'm always the first person into the breach to be like, I don't think so. And it almost never goes well, but I always enjoy to do it, because I think you got to open your mind, man.
Yeah. You could just be smart and go, hey, I love that episode, but I think a really underappreciated one is, I don't even know. The one
that's how I lean into it, and then at the end, and I say that's why it's better than City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh, and then you go in with the kill at the end, the fuck you at the end.
And if you want to hear my thoughts on that, check out the Penske File podcast where we talk about Star Trek.
Which is the episode where they have the baby in it. It's
Corbomite maneuver.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah,
and the other one where they're on the submarine. I forget.
That's my favorite one. I think that's the best original series Star Trek episode is Balance of Terror, where it's basically a submarine fight.
Right.
But I won't go into that shit here. I talk about that stuff all the time. Anyway, yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. Next time.
So let me talk about Paul Dini.
Oh yeah. Please do.
So honestly, it's not really much of a story. We know a lot of the same people. He and I probably have around the same Twitter followers or whatever. I'm not sure what comics he's writing right now, but I've never actually met him. I've met Bruce Timm, who was really great, and I'd love to meet Paul Dini because I don't think there's another comic book writer that has touched my life in such an important way as he has. And I think I've chatted with him briefly on Twitter before, told him how much I liked Harley Quinn, but I've never actually like geeked out on him or anything like that. So he retweeted or made a comment about Curse of the White Knight. I drew a variant cover of Harley Quinn. It's, of course, the classic Harley. And he was commenting that he really liked that she was still the way I was handling her or whatever. So I wrote him. I think I was a bit drunk, and I'm like, hey, what you did, there would be no White Knight without Paul Dini. We went into that kind of stuff. And then I said, when you were working and you thought, one day the next, Frank Miller or the next whatever, hopefully that kid right now is age 12 and he's loving this stuff, and maybe one day like he'll take the baton and run with Batman. And like, I'm telling you right now, Paul Dini, like, that kid is me. Like I went all the way. I grabbed that trophy. So then he DM'd me. He's like, hey, let's take this love fest offline. So we're chatting, and I said, he wrote me and he goes, I can tell you really love Harley Quinn. He said, you really understand that her costume is not the gimmick. Like her secret identity, what should I say? The costume on Harley Quinn isn't her leotard. It's the fact that she pretends to be a ditzy blonde. Mm-hmm. And she almost acts that way to get people around her, usually men, to lower their guard. But she's very manipulative, and you forget that because she's so cutesy. And he said, reading, White Knight and Cursed White Knight, it's clear that you really get that. And he also compared her to Bugs Bunny. He said Bugs Bunny is, because he used to write Tiny Toons as well back in the day. Yeah. And he said Harley Quinn is like Bugs Bunny in that if Bugs Bunny admitted that he was smarter than everybody else, then he would turn into Wile E. Coyote. Which wouldn't work. So that's kind of where Harley Quinn is. Anyway, it was a lot of that stuff, and I was really excited to chat with him. And I said, let me send you some art. He's like, oh, if you send me art, let me pay for it. I'm like, no, honestly, I mean it. I wouldn't have these pages. I wouldn't be working with Harley if it wasn't for you. Like, please. So he's like, okay, I'm going to send you an animation cell then. So very excited about that.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. And you totally remembered to plug the podcast, right?
No, I didn't. Well, that's the thing. Because if people were reviewing my stuff and they were not so keen on every single issue that I put out, I don't know if I would necessarily want to go on their podcast and be like, hey, I heard what you said about these episodes. Like, I like those episodes. Fuck you for not liking, Day of the Werewolf or whatever.
Well, I'm going to pick the worst episode we do, and then I'm going to send it to him and be like, can you believe what Sean said? Your new friend, Sean?
Well, that's the new friend, Sean. Well, that's the thing I do worry about is, I'm this guy's doing Batman now, and I have some pull and some sway and some tension on me, and doing a podcast where I'm reviewing someone else's work, even though these cartoons are 20 years old, 25 years old. I do kind of think like, maybe it's not something I should be doing is reviewing them, but hopefully it's obvious that these come out of a place of love. Even our criticisms come out of a place of love.
Yeah, everything you just said I'm going to cut out anyway, so.
No, shit. Me defending myself? Yeah, please get rid of that. But yeah, I geeked out and I ran to my wife. I'm like, oh, Paul Dini just wrote me. And she's like, who? So I texted my friend who's a Harley cosplayer, and I'm like, Crystal, guess who just wrote me? Paul Dini. She's like, oh my God. So,
Yeah. That's awesome, though. That's super cool.
Yeah, I hope I can meet him one day. I remember bringing up that I had a chance to go travel with him and Frank Miller last year that I didn't take.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had, but again, I don't know. Maybe he's polite on DM, but in person he's super awkward and doesn't want to chat to me.
Everybody's around. You'll run into him eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's awesome, man. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, I think. And next time we will be back with Birds of a Feather and What is Reality. And if you like the show, if you got any questions or anything, shoot us an email at battasspodcast@gmail.com, BATTASS podcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at battasspodcast, at BATTASS podcast. And, if you see someone walking down the street wearing a Batman shirt, even if it's like a 5-year-old kid, just get in their face and say, listen to the Badass podcasts. You'll do better in life if you do. So, and buy Curse of the White Knight. I don't think it's doing very well sales wise. So someone should probably, go out there and do Sean a favor. Yeah,
I'm happy to report that the reviews on issue 2 are better. I was starting to get worried because people were sort of confused that this wasn't a political thriller again. And I was getting a little nervous about the reaction. So when I started to see the reviews come in for issue 2, I think people sort of understood, like, oh, we get where this is going now. Got it.
Yeah. So. You and I talked about that after the first one, and exactly what we were talking about is what's happening. Where I think people are realizing that the first 2 are kind of like a 2-part pilot episode almost, right, where it's kind of. The first part is a little bit slower, and then the second part, it kind of comes together, and you really see where things are going. So
that's the trick, though. And I don't know when there's a good time for you and I to talk about this on a podcast, but do you write it episodic, or do you write it keeping in mind that for 99% of its life, the story is going to be a trade on a shelf, all of it together with no month delay between chapters?
Yeah.
So how much do you review? How much do you have to go back and remind people what happened last month? Last series, so I guess everyone's different.
Yeah. It's a different time now. They used to, you remember old comics used to have the editor's note boxes. Yeah. This happened 2 months ago in Superman #3 or whatever.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I thought about bringing that stuff back, not on my books, but if I had that right kind of book one day to sort of do notes from the editor or whatever, just to bringing back thought balloons again.
Yeah, I've seen a few people doing that. Who did that really nicely was Jason Aaron when he was doing Jane Foster Thor, because he had the Thor version while she was Thor. The way she talked was very much Thor, but then he would also do thought balloons where it would be very much Jane Foster's voice.
Gotcha.
So, and before you found out who that character was, you just had these 2 different voices going on, which was actually a really nice way to handle it.
Yeah. That's cool. Oh, to correct something I said in the last podcast, I told a story how I did a book with Jason Aaron that had geeky vampires in it. It was not Jason Aaron. It was a different Jason. It was a writer, yeah. As I was listening to it, I'm like, oh shit, I hope I correct this before the end of the episode, and I did not. So, Jason Aaron, I know you're not listening, but I'm sorry. It wasn't you. It was some other Jason.
Well, I'm going to be cutting this too as well.
Great.
But anyway. That's going to do it. And next time, thanks for listening. Next time we'll be back with Birds of a Feather and What is Reality. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.